What a great day to be a Leagues of O10 player. They've announced that we are getting 7 new models, as well as our new codex probably coming within the next month or two. And the thing that's got me most excited, potential new army rule. Yield points, as stated with the new model, Mimir Strategist yield points. What are yield points? We don't know. We don't even know what they do, but we know it's a new army rule, and thus, we can assume changes will be made to the entire army. This is exciting. So I want to go over all the models that we currently have, and even the ones yet to be released, and just speculate what this new army rule could do and how that could affect the army as a whole. Now, just starting off, when you compare Leagues of O10 from 9th edition to 10th edition, you'll know that we've gone from a shooting on 3's army to a shooting on 4's army on average. So you can then assume that we'll probably go back down to a shoot on 3 army unless yield points are going to do something similar to what the current judgment token system does. I hope not, but there's always the possibility. But I will be operating on the assumption that as a whole, the army will go back down to being a shooting on 3's army. So, first off, in the order on Wahapedia, the Brokir Ironmaster probably won't change at all. He has nothing that interacts with judgment tokens in any way, shape, or form. The only thing I can assume that will change is that the Graviton Rifle will go down to hitting on 2s, and the Las Beam Cutter will go down to hitting on 3s, as well as their combat weapons going to hit on 3s as well. Overall, I don't expect many changes. Next up is the Einir champion. Once again, I don't think there'll be any changes. He does nothing that interacts with the current judgment token system. Once again, I don't think there'll be any changes. He does nothing that interacts with the current judgment token system. Next up after him, the Grimnir also does not interact with judgment tokens. It's almost as if judgment tokens really didn't interact with the army in any meaningful way. It just made us a 4-up army and solve the issue. It's almost as if we were made a 4-up army just so judgment tokens can bring us back down to a 3-up. The Call. Now the Call does actually interact with judgment tokens, giving out 1 per battle round with Grim Efficiency in your command phase. Now what would this mean? Well, probably Grim Efficiency will do the same thing, but this time with yield points, probably giving like 1 or 2 per command phase. Uthar the Destined. Now, Uthar the Destined is interesting because he does have Grim Efficiency, but he doesn't do anything else. He doesn't interact with judgment tokens in any other way. So I don't think he will have any real changes. I kind of just hope they rework him, honestly. Like complete from the ground up, rebuild him. One change I always kind of wanted to happen to him was for them to add an ability to where he can add a damage for every judgment token a unit would have, but that would go away. But that wouldn't work if judgment tokens don't exist, so I don't even know what they're going to do with him. Hearthian Warriors. I don't think Hearthian Warriors would change either. Their only ability is basically to make objective markers sticky, and that doesn't interact with judgment tokens at all. For our only dedicated transport currently, the Sagittar also does not interact with judgment tokens at all. What a surprise. Brokir Thunderkins also don't interact with judgment tokens at all. Next up, Chthonian Berserks. They also do not interact with judgment tokens at all. What a surprise. Like the whole army did not need judgment tokens to function. They just were nerfed because of them. Einir Hearthguard do not interact with judgment tokens either. The Land Fortress. Oh yes, the Land Fortress. Ah yes, our biggest gun. It has to interact with judgment tokens in some way that isn't just use a judgment token ability. Oh wait, it doesn't. Hearthkin Pioneers. They do not interact with judgment tokens in any way. Ernkin Jaegers. They do not interact with judgment tokens in any way. So what does this mean? I think this means that the Votann are honestly nerfed by judgment tokens as an army rule over than actually benefiting. I think that because we had such a strong army rule, we were nerfed as an army as a whole, kind of like how Sisters work. Sisters had very middling data sheets but a very strong army rule, but Votann had a very strong army rule and kind of bad data sheets. Hopefully this will all change in the codex. I have a deep love for this army and I hate to see it fall into this like gray scale of just boring bullshit. But I have a feeling there's light at the end of the tunnel, starting with the first of the new model, Bernie Ingerson, or as I will forever know him as the Thricetan. He will definitely be a Monster Hunter character, probably either having anti-monster 2 up or 3 up, depending on how much damage or in the exact stat line of his spear. And with a 2 up, he'll get back up native ability, which is very fun. He'll probably be a lone operator. I'll be honest. I can't see someone with that ability being able to be attached to either a Hearthguard or a warrior unit. Next up is the Arcanist Evaluator. I don't know if he'll actually interact with the... I actually don't know if he'll interact with the yield points at all. Maybe if it's... maybe he'll interact with it in a way where every time he kills a unit, he will add yield points because he is testing out his weapon. I don't know. It's hard to tell with this one. It's a weird one. I can't wait to see what his gun does, though. Mimir's Strategist. We already know what he does. He will not only give us yield points and let us spend yield points, he will let us fire Overwatch or make a heroic intervention, which is very nice. Ironkin Steeljacks. I don't know how they'll interact with yield tokens, but I can say I'm very excited for them. They're probably going to be a bit closer to our Terminator equivalent or Wraithguard equivalent, and I am personally very excited to see what they can do. I like the idea of, instead of having, traditional, we'll just keep throwing dwarves in bigger suits of armor, we'll just take advantage of the Ironkin of the army and just put them and their mental cores inside of bigger and bigger chassis, which I think is a lot better idea. I also would love if they made them look more and more like the Men of Iron, because that is a aesthetic that I think looks cool, and also really showing how spin-offs or like what could have been of the Men in Iron. Chthonian Earthshakers. I don't know if they'll even interact with the rule either. They'll probably benefit from it, but it's hard to say if they'll like add to it, subtract from it, or anything like that. They're going to be a very interesting anti-infantry weapon, or having multiple different mole grenades for anti-different things, as well as being a very good indirect fire weapon, like artillery and guard. The Capricus, a compact light vehicle used by the Hernkin Jaegers. So they kind of are expanding the Hernkin, because not only do we have the Hernkin Pioneers, Hernkin Jaegers, and now the Capricus, which is the Hernkin vehicles. I'm just kind of hoping that it's not going to be a case of like, you got the Sagittar for splitting a 10-man unit of warriors into two 5-mans, and you got the Capricus for splitting the 10-man unit of Jaegers into 5-mans as well. I think that's kind of bullshit. I kind of hope they squad, but we don't know if there's like 1 in a box or 2 in a box. As well as the fact that it will have 2 different ways of being built. And that is all of these Vulcan models, with the new ones that just be released and all the current ones. So now I want to talk about what do I think will... And now I want to talk about like, what will the new armor will be? And honestly, I think it will be this. For every unit on an objective, we will get yield points. For every enemy killed, we'll get yield points. Probably something along those lines. And I imagine it may function somewhat like that Emperor's Children detachment, where every kill they get, they will gain buffs once they hit. They will gain buffs once they hit certain thresholds of kills. But for the kin, it'll be once we get a certain number of yield points, we'll start getting buffs. And I hope, and I really do hope this, because it would be very interesting if they do have it be this way, certain units will have the ability to spend the yield points that we gain, so that the yield points to gain buffs to allow them to move faster, kill harder, do whatever. And that will result in it being a little bit of a balancing act, because I think that would be very cool, of having this fun balancing act of a armor rule balancing, making sure you're always having the profit. When should we spend some of our yield points to give this unit a buff versus just having the yield points still, so we are guaranteed to have like this army buff instead of this individual unit buff. That's a thought process. That's a fun thought process I think I'll have. What buffs could the yield points give if they function like that? Another video in the future maybe. But that is everything. I still don't know how to end these.